Thank you all for coming. And I'll get right into the discussion since we don't have a lot of time. But basically, I think everyone understands this information now. We've certainly had to deal with the Joint Commission issues surrounding diagnostic reference levels and CT doses for a few years now. And one of the things that we've also been discussing a lot about is XR29, and there's 4 specific elements that go with that. And we don't need to go into detail about that because I think everyone has been suffered through this enough already. But one thing I do want to point out is that through dose structured reporting, we're able to capture a great deal of information that we can then take and report back to you, specifically about the breadth and the depth of the scan protocols and CT, as well as fluoroscopy and a lot of other devices. So, some of the things that we've also been working hard on is helping our customers deal with MACRA. Have you heard of MACRA? If you haven't heard of MACRA, you will. It's really dealing with a number of issues. There's over 200 different metrics that CMS is going to be looking at with MACRA coming up, and a handful of them deal with the dose to patients and how the radiology department is managing their facilities. So here's some of them right up here. And you can see there's some very, very specific information that MACRA is going to be looking to collect. Regarding CT scans using automatic exposure. There's also this one with looking data specifically about 18-year-olds dealing with minor head trauma and a Glasgow coma scale within 24 hours. So there's a lot of information that's going to be very specific that facilities are going to have to collect and report out on. EQUIP. Has anyone heard of EQUIP? If you haven't, and you're dealing with mammography, you're going to have to become very familiar with EQUIP. Those are new standards that are coming out, and they're already doing inspections on the EQUIP standard, so you need to know this information. And here's specifically what the questions are that they're asking when they come into your facility. We don't need to go into detail with these. However, just as a general description, you need to have a quality control process in place. And you need to have procedures and a number of things to make sure that the mammography, the breast screening that's being performed is of the highest quality. So this is another thing which is going to be coming across your desk shortly. And now we're going to get into some of the CT dose optimization, which I want to turn over to Andrew.
Thanks, Chris. So West Physics is very excited to be partnering with Philips
That's right, I forgot to even mention that, is that we're really excited, we're really excited that Philips has entered into a relationship, a partnership with West Physics for nationwide services. We're really super excited about this because now when people use or buy equipment from Philips, whether it's CT, fluoroscopy scanners, things of that nature, we now have a direct connection with West Physics where when you buy your CT scanner from us, you can have services directly from West Physics as well. So, sorry, go ahead.
And this is something that West Physics is very excited about as well. And it's something that's, in general, of great use to sites because when you're purchasing equipment, it's very convenient to have a physicist available to inspect the equipment at installation, as well as to help with protocol implementation and setup. In particular, sites that do not have in-house support, if you're using a contract physics support, sometimes scheduling can be difficult when you're installing a new piece of equipment, and we found that it's of great benefit to both us and the site to work with OEMs in order to better help a site through that transition period. Now, when it comes to setting up your CT protocols with the new Joint Commission standards, and I'll also say as well now the new ACR CT manual, in case your facility is not Joint Commission accredited and you have been sort of letting those standards slip by you. The ACR has put out a new CT manual where they're syncing up their language as far as protocol review. And so even if you're a non-JC site, you should still be paying attention to these protocol management issues, because they'll be of greater importance to you as well going forward. Now, when it comes to setting up CT protocol optimization, there's a number of different issues, and a lot of sites are getting their way through this with manual techniques. Some of you might be using physical log sheets next to your scanners. You might be looking through your packs to get a representative sample to figure out what your reference levels are. This is generally a way of meeting these standards that is subject to a lot of human error. And also, it's a lot, well, in general, using an analytic software tool like DoseWise is a much more comprehensive and airtight way of monitoring your CT protocols. Now, if there's one phrase that I'd like to highlight on this slide, it would be this third one here: inconsistency in workflow among technologists. This is where these dose tracking software programs like DoseWise are very effective, because as you're probably aware, if you're a site that has multiple scanners, if I was to come in cold and look at scan room 1 versus 2 versus 3, do you have a good idea of what your dose would be on each of those scanners, and would they be consistent across all of your scanners? I can tell you from experience that it's very rare that I can come into a site and find an airtight one-to-one comparison between all of their rooms. And software tracking programs like this are a great way to shore up that part of your program. Additionally, there's a great emphasis being placed on pediatric protocols, and a lot of sites will have really well-designed pediatric protocols, but if you look in the PACS network at all of the 18 and under patients and see what protocols those patients were actually scanned with, you'll find a large percentage of the time you'll see pediatric patients being scanned with adult protocols. It's very hard to catch those types of errors using a manual tracking method. So this is something that dose tracking software is very helpful with. So what we would be doing is, when your facility would purchase DoseWise, it would come with medical physics support. And what that means is that we would be available to help you in a number of different capacities, in setting up the data so that your protocols are all being mapped to a standardized naming convention, that you have a good idea of what your typical radiation dose is for different CT protocols, that you have appropriate benchmarking data set up so that you know you have different thresholds for setting up for checking high dose, for tracking high dose cases. And also, if you look at your protocols over time, and let's say new features become available, you would have support from West Physics in optimizing your protocols so that you get a standard, a consistent standard of care across your facilities, and that you're best able to take advantage of all of the new options that you have on your machines. Because as we all know, there's quite a bit of increased, there's always new tools and techniques that you can be taking advantage of with modern day scanners, and it's very beneficial to have frequent medical physics support when you're optimizing those protocols. Now, what this service can look like is going to depend on what it is that you want. There's a full spectrum ranging from bare bones level of involvement, where the physics support would come and help you set up, do some initial protocol reviews, help you set up your standard or your expected ranges and your benchmarking levels, and then you say, all right, we can take it from here, all the way up through a completely turnkey solution, which includes frequent on-site visits where West Physics will participate in your protocol review committee meetings and assist in optimizing protocols as particular cases come up where that may be warranted.